got this. Come on, let's do this.
Oh, crap. No. Catch
that. No! Well, comic boy, it looks like I win, and you know what that means.
Can't I just commit harakiri instead?
That wouldn't be nearly as much fun.
You're really going to subject me to this torture, aren't you?
Dude, you live in Cleveland. What could be more torture than that?
You have no idea. It's no secret. I made it very clear in the past I am not a fan of Garfield. I don't like the copy-pasted artwork, I don't like the fact that the original artist doesn't do anything for the strip anymore, and I hate the fact that it's one of the most mediocre strips in existence, but makes the most money, more than any other comic strip.
This is where my colleague and I must agree to disagree because I grew up loving Garfield. But I will admit the strip's quality has gone down over the years, and I think Garfield works best in animated form anyway, giving him more freedom to show off his attitude and snark. The TV specials from the 80s are among my fondest memories, and Garfield and Friends is right up there with Alf, Ninja Turtles, and Get Smart among my favorite shows ever. So of course I was intrigued to discover that in 2009, a new Garfield animated series began airing on Cartoon Network. From what I can gather, the show was actually created first for European audiences, premiering in France in December 2008 and Britain in May 2009, before finally coming to CN in December of that year. It was a joint production between Paws Incorporated and Dargaud Media, meaning this show is the reason for another frack up of mine, as it means not every Garfield show was made by Phil Roman, like I said in my Grandma Got Run Over review. So basically, we're getting a foreign adaptation of Garfield that was later translated for American audiences.
Great. So we've got possible translation errors to contend with too. Well, I'll be fair, this is almost certainly going to be better than the strip just by virtue of it needing a story for a TV format.
But can this show possibly duplicate the great comedy and characterizations of the first cartoon?
Can it actually give us characters that don't look like they were spawned by the comic Satan?
Yeah, it's gonna be unusual playing the good cop for this review. Let's dig into the Garfield show. Ladies and gentlemen, Garfield for people who need Ritalin!
Oh. The overall design is, well, there's technically nothing wrong with it, and it certainly looks like the cartoon strip, but the animation's all jerky and stiff looking. I've seen web originals that look better than this. I know TV shows work on a budget, but still, come on. Not that I'm necessarily surprised, mind you, what with this being a creation of Mr. Merchandise himself.
Now, I admit to having a nostalgic passion for 2D animation, but I do try to give 3D CGI a chance. But here, two words that come to mind are busy and slow. This is what you get when you clearly use the cheapest form of CGI animation. Heck, just looking at this overhead shot makes me think I'm viewing some kid's model play set rather than a cartoon setting. And the actions the animation does look more like they're showing off what they can do with the technology.
Yoo-hoo! Hello! Time to get up. Very important day. Wakey, wakey.
Wait. No. Stop. Is Garfield actually talking there with, like, lips moving and everything? Because he doesn't talk. That's one of the key points of the character in the original comic strip. He doesn't talk in speech bubbles. He talks in thought balloons.
You know, that is one thing that supposedly got me for years. How Garfield's not supposed to be talking, but there were always situations, especially in the cartoons, that only made sense if he did. And having his lips move in this thing doesn't help. That brings us to the voice acting, which is not terrible, but not altogether great. Now, no one can replace the late, great Lorenzo Music. He was Garfield. But legendary voice talent Frank Welker, I gotta say I'm less than impressed. With him, it's almost all lethargy and no sarcasm, while Music always seemed to have the best mix of both. Heck, Bill Murray got the character better in the movies, and we all know how he felt about doing those.
So do you have any regrets?
Garfield, maybe?
In fact, the only main voices that return from the original are Greg Berger as Odie and Julie Payne as Liz, the latter of which has been relegated to the full-on girlfriend character that hacked me off the moment she and John got together!
Oh, don't get me started on Liz and John.
About dinner tonight.
I don't feel safe around you, big fella. I might yawn myself to death.
Ladies, honest question. Why would you ever date this man?
He makes me laugh.
I'm not even buying that!
And sadly, most of the other replacement voice actors just seem like they're mailing it in. Wally Wingert as John comes off like Jason Lee's portrayal of Dave in the Chipmunk movies, and Jason Marsden as Nermal doesn't have near the extreme saccharine cutesy sweetness that Desiree Goyette used to make us hate him so much.
Why did you do that?
Well, don't be jealous, Garfield. It's not your fault that I'm adorable and you're not.
There's also the music. It's pretty much non-existent here, whereas in Garfield and Friends, like many successful shows of the 80s, used a lively soundtrack with the dialogue to create an atmosphere that was engaging and not just distracting. What makes this sad is that the guy basically in charge of this show, including the voice direction, is Mark Evanier, who was the head writer on Garfield and Friends. He also writes the Garfield comic book, so you'd think he'd have the chance to go back to what he does well.
Whoa. There's a Garfield comic book?
Published monthly by Boom Comics.
Oy, the monster just keeps on growing.
Evanier used the first show to inject his great comedy and satire of society, much like Animaniacs would do. He even created characters like the Buddy Bears as a direct take that to the extreme get-along messages that cartoons were forced to sell in the early 80s. Heck, all the new characters created just for that show helped drive the stories. Here we do get characters from the comics like Arlene and Squeak the Mouse, as well as new ones like Vito the Italian Chef, but they just don't have the over-the-top zaniness of guys like the U.S. Acres Gang, Al J. Swindler, and of course...
Mickey's the name and clowning's my game!
You gotta love that guy!
You're gonna pay for that once my head stops pounding.
Without the music and voice acting, it's like they're only using the animation to sell this thing. And like we said, we're not talking Toy Story there. That leaves us only the storylines for the episodes, and well...
Wasn't it a great idea to go spend a week with my brother on the farm?
Don't call me Doc Boy. Don't call me Doc Boy.
Doc Boy.
Did you make this trip the whole way out here just to insult your brother? We have text messages. We have Skype. Catch up with the 21st century, man.
Hey, never underestimate the value of personal interaction.
Big screen TV, all the pizza, paid vacations for your animals?
Paid vacations for the animals? What? Do you pay the animals? Do you fire them if they don't work? Oh. Okay then, that works.
Sadly, a lot of these episodes basically rehash stories from previous Garfield cartoons. For example, in the first season, there's an episode where Garfield has to rescue Odie from the pound. Sound familiar? I mean, Here Comes Garfield to me is not just the standard for Garfield Adventures, but the standard for animated specials. I still tear up whenever I hear So Long Old Friend. But here, They just do a lame story where he puts on a really bad dog disguise just so he can give Odie his license to get out. A license that, guess what, we never see Odie wear again. And that's not the only example. We have Garfield competing with Nermal in a pet show. Garfield gets mistaken for some sort of prehistoric wildcat. And then get this, a full 2-part Christmas show. Because Garfield didn't already have one of those, right? Creating a second holiday special didn't work for Charlie Brown, and it doesn't work here.
Odie discovered the joys of sharing your food with someone else. I'll have to try that sometime. Maybe not this millennium.
Garfield just admitted his own selfishness and that he doesn't care about it one whit. So is his deadly sin this week sloth or gluttony?
Odie was worried that he'd get in trouble for giving a cheesecake to the wolf. Or maybe that somebody would put his new friend in a zoo or something.
Why not bring him back to the forest? In fact, why bother bringing him home at all?
Well, this is Odie we're talking about. His IQ is so low you can't test it. You have to dig for it.
Just because I can't talk doesn't mean you can't listen to me.
Thank you! Thank you so much! Finally, after years of reading the comic, watching the TV shows, playing the games, and being confused by the way speech and thought bubbles work in Garfield, I finally have a clear answer as to how their mechanics operate.
I need someone to take care of them.
I don't think that would be such a good idea, Liz.
Why not?
Well, for one thing, Garfield's putting out tartar sauce and lemons.
Wait! I can predict the end of the episode now. Garfield's going to eat the fish and get away with it scot-free.
All rise for His Honor, the Honorable Oliver Octavius.
I think my brain just broke trying to follow the plot twist here. This isn't going to bode well for my sanity, is it?
Garfield the cat is accused of eating fish.
Well, maybe I ate a few fish.
7,322 fish.
How on earth could you possibly know that? You didn't even meet Garfield until 58 seconds ago. Is there some giant, massive, aquatic Illuminati spy network that's been tracking Garfield all this time? Why specifically him? Why not all the other cats in the world who also eat fish? How did Liz's flying fish know to bring Garfield here? How can Garfield speak and move normally underwater? Why is he taking it all in stride so well?
It just raises too many questions.
I hereby sentence you to Larry.
Who's Larry?
He's Larry.
It was all a dream. Of course. I'm gonna go beat my head against the wall for a while because I already know how this one is going to end.
Yeah, even I'll admit you're scraping when you use plot elements that were used as far back as a 1935 Disney short.
After that dream, I'll never eat another fish again. Until next week.
Until next week, of course. Why on earth are we supposed to sympathize with Garfield? What even slightly likable feature is there about him that an audience, even little kids, would find even remotely appealing in this cartoon? Basically, what we learned from these episodes is that Garfield is a manipulative liar and scam artist who cares only for his own selfish desires to the extent that he'll take advantage of those around him with nary a thought for the long-term consequences or if they even want it.
Geez, you put it that way, you make him sound like Anita Sarkeesian.
In any other cartoon, he'd be the villain of the show. So why are we supposed to care about him here? I'm choking on these words, but watching this show actually makes the comic strip look like a makes it look like a work of art in comparison.
You didn't see that, okay? I know where you live.
So that's the Garfield show, and my opinion of it is no, just no.
Yeah, I can't exactly defend it.
It's bad. It's really bad, but the interesting thing is that it's a completely different kind of bad from the comic strip. Garfield the comic strip is mediocre in a sort of laid-back, lazy, and almost arrogant sort of sense. The Garfield show is loud and obnoxious and in your face and constantly moving. It has no sense of subtlety, pacing. The voice acting is just god-awful. And even the animation is not that good. I said earlier that I've seen better web animation done by amateurs. I'm not kidding. Look up Monty Ohm's Haloid or Dead Fantasies series sometimes. Look at it right here. That's one guy. One guy, and that's better than this team of so-called professionals.
Let me make this clear. You will be hard-pressed to find a bigger Garfield fan than me, but this thing just comes off as a half-assed job. I know how ironic it is to say that about a show featuring a lazy fat cat, but there just isn't any energy. It seems very little effort is put into the writing, characterization, or music composition, while amazingly too much effort is put into the animation. It comes off as just being something that's meant to be a big, shiny distraction using well-known characters, which means it's perfect for today's Cartoon Network. Still, you gotta admit, that wasn't that bad to get through.
It could have been worse, yeah.
Yeah, we could have taken a look at the direct-to-video animated specials.
Out.
JD! Bonk!
Oh, wow, okay, that actually worked. I'm your comic strip critic, and I read the funny pages and watch their animated adaptations in the hope that someday they will be.
He'll give up anything for lasagna, unless he has to give up on his nap time. Well, he's a neat cat, a fun cat, Mr. #1 cat. He knows what life is all about. Here comes Garfield, look out, here comes Garfield, look out, I said here comes Garfield, so you better look out. Here comes Garfield, you better look out.